Okay, so here we are in Tinkercad, and what we're going to make is kind of a cylindrical, a little box here. This is about 2 inches high, so it's the kind of thing you could throw maybe some earrings or guitar picks or SD cards or maybe a little change in there. But it's just kind of a neat thing, and you can see I put my initials there as well on the bottom of the lid, which is a little bit easier than putting them on the top of the lid for a number of reasons. But based on the fact that you've already done a bunch of things like your name tag and a few other tutorials, this shouldn't be too hard. So if I create a new design, takes a minute to boot up, of course. All right, and the first thing I'm going to do is bring a cylinder in here. And the first thing I notice about that cylinder is that the measurements are in metric, which I don't like. I'm going to go to my grid, edit grid, and change it to inches. And then when I click on these boxes here, it allows me to change the measurements. 2 inches by 2 inches. And that's my 2-inch round cylinder. I want it to be about 1.5 inches high. Oops, got to click in the box there. That always gets me. Unless it's highlighted, it won't. So that's a 1.5 inch high by 2 inch diameter cylinder right there. Very cool. All right. Now I want to put a hole inside there that's just a little bit smaller than that, so it leaves a rim around the inside. That's going to be the hole that my box becomes, the space inside the box. So I'm going to make another cylinder here, and instead of 1, I'm going to make this 1.75. Make this 1.75. And I might make this just a little bit taller. I might make this 2.2 or something. Yeah, 2.25. Just so it's a little bit taller than this guy. And then I'm going to drag him over. Zoom out a little bit. And try to put this cylinder here inside this guy. And it's not that easy. So what I want to do is just kind of highlight both of these guys and click on this align tool. And if I click here and here, that should center it. Those 2 center points there should center it pretty well. Okay. And now I can click out of the align tool. And if I make this one here into a hole, not the whole thing, darn it. I don't want these guys grouped. Group. Oops. Undo. Ungroup. So this guy here, I should be able to lift up a little bit and make him a hole. Ha! There it goes. Now, how high did I lift it up? It looks like I lifted it up just a little bit off of the bottom, so I have a bit of a space on the bottom there that'll make sure things don't drop out of my box. And if I click out here, give it a second to render, group it, Shazam! I've got myself a cylinder with a hole in the middle of it, and you can see this edge is pretty uniform all the way around. All right. Now I got to make the lid, which is the tricky part. So if you didn't think that was tricky, hold on to your hat because it's going to get a little crazy. All right. So I'm going to bring a cylinder over. For some reason he's on the wrong side of the work plane. I'll do that. Good. Click on it. Make it 2. Make this 2. Off my work plane there. Let's see if I can move this guy over a little bit. Get him a little closer there. Excellent. And I'm going to make him 0.25 inches tall. Oops. Click on that box. I say oops a lot, huh? All right, there we go. So there's going to be what you see on top of this. But we've got to make a cylinder inside of it that allows you to have a nice tight fit for your lid. So I need to make another cylinder on top of here that's just a little bit smaller in diameter. So grab my work plane, set it right there. So there's my work plane. Grab a cylinder, bring it on top of there. Okay, that's a little tall. I'm going to make that 0.25 as well. And now I'm going to make it, if you recall, this was 1.75. So I'm going to make this 1.7. Make this 1.7. Gives me about 5/100ths space for wiggle room, so my lid should fit inside there. Right now I got a bit of a problem because this guy is certainly not centered. So if I highlight these two pieces, click on my align tool here, and click the center there, and click the center there. Now that guy is aligned, and it should fit in there. Let's bring our work plane back to the bottom of this. Great, so these guys are on the same work plane. Looks like it's floating a little bit there. There we go. It's right flat on that work plane. Good. Now the last thing I want to do is put my initials on the underside of this lid. You might want to put it on the top, but I promise you that could cause you some problems. So let's just group these two pieces together. So that becomes one. And then I'm going to put a work plane right on top of this. And you should know how to use the text tool from making your name tag. Text is awful big there. I'm going to shrink it down quite a bit. As I get closer, I can zoom in. The text is awful high. I'm going to make that 0.125. And I'm just going to kind of eyeball it in terms of getting this thing centered. That's pretty close. Right now you're thinking, but wait, my initials aren't the word text. Okay, if you click here under the shape generator, it allows you to change that, and I can do SMP, or you could do dad or mom or somebody like that if you wanted to make this as a gift for someone. That bothers me just a little bit, I think. Oops. I think I could make that a little more centered. And again, you could probably use the align tool. By the way, you guys have been doing a lot more of this than I have in the past week. So if you know a faster or easier way of doing this, boy, you should go ahead and do it, because you know what? I am definitely not an expert at this. I'm just kind of winging it as I go, showing you how to make a cool thing. So I grabbed the work plane again, put it on the bottom of these objects. So now we've got the work plane underneath the bottom of the box, which has a nice hole in it, and a lid that has the rim that should fit inside there, and your initials will be right there. We should group all of this junk together. Group, make it all one thing. Okay, and if we look at it, 3.5 by 4.5, that should fit on the bed of our 3D printer. Worst case is we may have to move our lid a little bit closer to the cylinder, just because the space on which you can 3D print on our printer is a little bit limited. In fact, you know what? I will ungroup these guys, group this stuff, and then move that whole thing just a little bit closer. I don't want to bump it. And now I will group this. And now, yeah, I've got a nice small little cluster there for my box and my lid. So this is pretty much ready to export. Before you do, come find your teacher. Mr. Benson or I will take a look at it, make sure that it looks kosher. It would be a drag if we spent 2 hours on the 3D printer and found out that your lid was not aligned or something was weird about it. But this looks to be okay, so I'm going to click export.stl. Ooh, you know what I never did? Oh, shame on me. I never put my, never changed the title to my name. So I'm going to call that Mr. Pat Box 2 because I've already done this once. Save it like that and then export it as an STL. And that way, when you email it to myself or Mr. Benson, we'll know whose box it is. And if the printer messes it up, we'll blame you. So, good luck. See your teacher if you have any questions, but this should be something you should be able to handle based on the skills you already have acquired. And again, if you think you know a faster or better way of doing it, all the better, all the more power to you. But this is just one way of making a pretty neat object. Shouldn't take us too long to print, and you'll be able to take it home and show your family just how smart you are.